What's up, YouTube fam, Time Wizard fam? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am here to show off another deck. We are going to show the deck I ended second place with at my locals last week, Warriors. It's been pretty popular in GOAT format as of late. I thought I would show off my version of the deck and what I've been thinking of it. It's been pretty nuts. The amount of power that this deck has to just kind of just take control and just kind of take out your opponent just immediately is kind of crazy, with like how a lot of the decks can be where they have to like set monsters to set up, specifically like if it's a control deck. But without wasting your time, let's go ahead and get started on the deck. First thing we got is Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke, 1800 4-star. When he attacks a face-up monster, when he attacks a face-up defense position monster, he will automatically destroy it, which is super useful versus things like a Spirit Reaper. Also, let's say they, more often than not, most floaters that you attack will be face down, but let's say they have a face-up defense position, Mystic Tomato, Giant Rat, or just some kind of floater. This will automatically kill it without triggering it, which is nice. Broken. I've been testing this out, Goblin Attack Force. He's been pretty good so far in testing. I love that he is 2300 4-star that you can search with Reinforcement of the Army. I love that he trades with Chaos Sorcerer, so he's just an immediate out to that as long as they don't have trap cards. He's also just a 2300 presence that your opponent has to deal with. Yes, he switches himself to defense, but he's also, you know, he just kind of, he walls up, and he also just acts as a force that your opponent has to solve. And especially with as many traps as you run on the deck, there's a lot of the time where you can just kind of smack for 2300 or just get over, like you're playing the Warrior Mirror match, he gets over Zumbira, he gets over so much in the format just early game that if you have the traps, you can defend him for at least a turn or two. If your opponent doesn't see Heavy Storm specifically, then he just kind of puts in more work, and he's just, like I said, he's something they just have to deal with. Exiled Force, because it's broken, just auto kills. BLS, just because it is GOAT format, and this card is ridiculous if you're running Light and Darks, because everything in GOAT format happens to work out. You're running Light and Darks, so we run the BLS. Breaker, just because Breaker's nuts, destroys a back row, 1900. He's also a dark monster. DD Warrior Lady, auto outs everything, basically. Also, it's searchable off of Reinforcement of the Army, which is nuts. This is something that I've really specifically liked about the Warrior deck, is the fact that it can run Zumbira the Dark. 2100 monster, when it declares an attack at the end of battle, it will lose 200 attack. It's a 2100 4-star, which is crazy. Unfortunately, he can't attack directly, which is kind of a hindrance, but he's alright as a presence, like a turn 1 presence. If you start Zumbira, you can just summon him as a 2100 that they have to out right away, and I think that in GOAT format specifically, that's nuts, unless they have specifically like Thousand Eyes Restrict. This card is a force on the field, and I think that's incredible. Speaking of a force on the field, you got double Mystic Swordsman level 2, just outs any flip effect that your opponent may have. Also combo as well with like Book of Moon or things that just put monsters face down. Auto kills Magician of Faith, auto kills Old Vindictive Magician, auto kills face down floaters like Mystic Tomato, Giant Rat, anything that's face down, stops Dekoichis from activating, etc., etc. The card's just nuts in the format. And the fact that it's, you run 2 of this, you run 2 Reinforcement of the Army, so basically if you need this, you have 4 in your deck to just go get it at any time. Whether you start it or you start Rhoda, you can just go search this, and I think that's nuts. Speaking of stopping flip effects, we've got triple Blade Knight, because Blade Knight is nuts. 1600 monster, it becomes, it gains 400 attack if you have 1 or less card in your hand. Also, if he is the only monster you control, which is where the relevancy comes in, specifically in GOAT format, if he destroys a monster, if he destroys a face down flip effect monster, he will negate the flip effect, and that comes up way more often than not, where it can just stop your opponent from pushing plays. It stops their Magician of Faith from adding anything back. It can't get over a Gravekeeper Spy, which is unfortunate, but it does get over Dekoichi, it does get over Magician of Faith, it does get over, let's say they had an Apprentice Magician, they apprenticed for Old Vindictive, or just, you know, apprentice for Magician of Faith. It just stops their extension plays also. Blade Knight's just nuts. Also, the fact that it's a 4-star, you can search with Rhoda, which is like the whole contingency of the entire deck, is just being able to search anything that you need at any time. Also, triple Kaiku. This card's broken. Stops Chaos Sorcerer from coming out. Stops BLS from coming out. Stops your opponent from being able to really do anything with their graveyard. Specifically, it's also ironic. It coincidentally works out at my locals because I have a Grand Maju player at my locals. Shout out Hunter Collins. Running the Chaos Rider Gustav Bazoo deck. Also, it runs the trap card Skull Lair, which is kind of crazy because it can just at any point activate, banish as many cards from its graveyard and pop anything on the field, and Kaiku just shuts that down because your opponent cannot banish anything from their graveyard, and Kaiku is nuts. Onto the spell lineup. It would not be GOAT format if you were not running Delinquent Duo or Pot of Greed or Graceful Charity or Snatch Steal or Premature Burial. If you're running if you're playing GOAT format and you're not running these cards, there's a good chance you're doing something wrong or you're playing something weird. Cards are broken. Spell and Trap Hate, Mystical Space Typhoon, Heavy Storm. Gotta run them, just gets rid of things. If you're playing against a deck that doesn't have a whole lot of back row, you can side them out later. But as far as game one is concerned, gets rid of Sakuretsu's, gets rid of a whole lot of else. Baits, specifically Baits Solemn Judgment. If your opponent decided that because they had a Solemn, they could go ahead and set 4 card, you're going to put some respect on Heavy Storm's name by making them flip that Solemn. Double Reinforcement of the Army, Warrior deck, gotta run it. Double Book of Moon, just like I said, combos well with Mystic Swordsman level 2. It's also an auto out to Thousand Eyes Restrict, just gets that off the field as long as they don't have any trap cards. You can just kill that automatically. Just a great card in GOAT. Staple, Nobleman of Crossout, especially early game, just stops anything, stops Gravekeeper Spy, gets rid of Magician of Faiths, Dequaichis, anything that's there. Also can combo well, no matter what it is. You know, they have a Jinzo, they have floaters like Mystic Tomato, literally anything. You can just book a Moon and then knock it if you have knock in your hand. So these two become really good friends mid to late game. Trap cards. We've got 1 Torrential Tribute, 1 Mirror Force, just kind of your blowout cards. 1 Ring of Destruction. This comes in clutch way too often, where, you know, you're pushing little bits of damage with like Blade Knights or what have you, then your opponent gets some kind of play. Ring of Destruction can just blow them out of the water more often than not. Similar to, like, I had a game last week, not specifically with Ring of Destruction, but with burn damage. I was able to push a whole lot of damage on like turn 2 or turn 3. After sideboard, I side in Ceasefire, and I was able to just do burn damage. Ring of Destruction can just push, and the fact that it can just kill right away is just superb. Ring of Destruction's nuts. I do double Dust Shoot. I know you can do triple Dust Shoot in GOAT format. I only do 2. Number 1 reason that I only do 2 is I only own 2. So, coincidence. But it also just kind of works out. I don't know, like 3 is broken. It also just kind of keeps things consistent, gives you options for other cards instead of by running the 3rd. I could pick up the 3rd, but I kind of like it as a 2 of. It's been kind of, I mean, it's still nuts, but if you wanted to run the 3 Dust Shoot, just because you can run 3 Dust Shoot, you could always run the 3 Dust Shoot. Sakuretsu Armor, broken 1 for 1, just gets things off the field and just completely solves any problem that comes up with things that are attacking. And then last but not least, Solemn Judgment. This card has been, I don't remember back in the format people running things, but with current Yu-Gi-Oh play, this card is just broken in GOAT format. I feel like for the most part, it should just be ran in literally everything. It's just an automatic no to anything. You can Solemn Judgment BLS, you can Solemn Judgment. It keeps present where you can just keep pushing advantage with Solemn Judgment. You know, you're paying half your life points, sure, but like if you are able to maintain, you know, a Blade Knight, a BLS, some other stuff on your field and just be able to continue pushing, or even if you have, you know, like Mystic Swordsman level 2 and just a couple level 4s, Solemn just keeps the Mirror Force at bay, keeps the Torrential off the field, keeps any kind of just mass destruction or just anything that's going to flip advantage to your opponent. It's just nuts. I would recommend Solemn Judgment in almost literally anything in the format. So that's the main deck. If you have any comments about the deck, any suggestions, any thoughts about what you are doing with the deck, go ahead, post those down there. I do have I will post a couple links to the videos that I ran this deck in down there in the description box as well. So go ahead and check those out if you have the time. I hope you'll check out some other videos. As far as comments on the deck, there's not a whole lot that I would change with it. Like I said, you could run triple dust shoot if you decided you wanted to run the 3 dust shoot. I don't know if it's really that necessary because 2 dust shoot's already kind of nuts. You know, it's like 3 dust shoot's good, but it's also kind of like, do you need 3 dust shoot? Because at that point, you know, it's like, I feel like after the 2nd dust shoot hits, they're probably going to try to like play around the 3rd dust shoot, or they're not going to have 4 cards. Like, it could come up, but it's just, I just feel like it isn't necessary. It could be any other trap, if I'm being honest. One thing I do want to test around with the deck is, I did not own these until this last week, but DD Assailant, I had a friend of mine hook me up with a playset, so that's kind of helpful. That's kind of nice, as I can just kind of test around with that. I don't know if I'm going to run all 3, but I have 3 now that I can play with. I might try to flip these around with something and just kind of test these out, because it's a broken card. You know, anything about DD Assailant, the card's broken. 1700 4-star, auto banishes whatever monster kills it by battle. And it's just, the fact that it's 17 and you can search it is just nuts. Yeah, so that's all I've really got about the deck. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button so I can see you in the next video. Share the video if you feel like sharing it with some other peoples. Hope I will see you in the next video, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.